Keynote speaker is Mr. Gregory Marshall, who is the CEO of the Gregory C. Marshall Naval Architect Company. His presentation is entitled Green Boats, a Social Challenge, Not a Technical Challenge. Gregory Marshall is a Victorian, British Columbia, Canadian company based, a naval architect based, that is specializing in the design of large custom yachts built worldwide. Greg has been in the yacht design business for more than 35 years and has had a current firm in Victoria for 21 years. Greg and his business partner, Gordon Galbraith, and their team of 16 designers, engineers, and stylists have penned some of the world's most spectacular yachts, including VVSI, the winner of 11 global awards in 2007, including Best Power Yacht, Best Interior, Most Innovative Yacht. Calixus, winner of 9 global awards in 2009, including the Best Power Yacht, winner of the Most Innovative Yacht. Big Fish, winner of 14 global awards, including Best Motor Yacht, Best Interior, Best Naval Architect, Best Styling, and Most Innovative Yacht. And Atessa 4, 330 feet, winner of the Best Refit Award. Current projects include a 280-foot custom yacht for a private customer, a 220-foot yacht for an American owner, and a 200-foot yacht for a Middle Eastern owner, as well as an array of smaller projects. Greg's firm is actively involved in improving the inherently large environmental footprints of large yachts through innovative engineering solutions. I might note that Greg was a participant in Green Boats 2 and gave a presentation that we've been still talking about 2 years later. So he was one of our rock stars from Green Boat 2. So we're delighted to have him back and looking forward to his presentation. Greg.
Hey. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. Let's see, where's the clicker here? There we are. So, along with what Dean Corliss was saying, my office, I think, is probably involved in designing the greenest project on Earth right now. And it's ocean-going, fuel-efficient hull form, extremely reliable, virtually unsinkable, on and on and on and on and on. So this is a traditional canoe from the West Coast. I'm from Victoria, British Columbia. We're currently designing a 15-foot version of this for the local schools to build, local First Nation schools to build in their schools as a training program and as a competitive program. And it occurred to me that actually this is what we're all trying to get to. It has all the features that we've talked about, all the things we're trying to get to. And somehow we've just kind of gotten off track from this. So, what I see is sort of more of a training program and how we sort of go almost full circle back to our canoe. And so, a little bit about my office. I think Dean Corliss covered this just fine. Along the way, our main business is yachts, but we do all sorts of different things, all sorts of different industries. So, in our office, we do styling, naval architecture, structural engineering, mechanical, electrical engineering. We design the interiors, we do the accessories, and we're probably most skilled at marriage counseling. This is sort of a typical yacht. This is one we launched a few years ago. Amazingly enough, we got a boat that's 5 meters or roughly 18 feet bigger. It just came out of the same shed a few weeks ago. So typically what we do is sort of high-end yachts, luxurious, flashy, for very wealthy people to travel around the world in. Sort of a few pictures of the inside and kind of what they do with them. We put helicopters on them so they can go to lunch. If your boat's so big, we put actually 2 helicopter pads on so that you don't have to walk to the bow. And so basically at our core, we like engineering just all sorts of different things. The harder the better, the more interesting the better, more challenging the better. Along the way, we ended up getting involved in all sorts of other industries because of various different skill sets that we developed to do yachts. We did the engineering on the largest windmill blades ever built. Absolutely nothing to do with luxurious yachts. We engineered the Arctos high-latitude evacuation vehicles, which probably our most challenging engineering job because they had to be able to drop them from high altitude down onto the ice and have all the guys inside survive. Or drop them underwater and they float back up to the surface. So this is sort of the other end of our scale of what we do. Of course, we always bring it back to yachts. And so we design yachts that can go to far places of the world. And we do it for, not for research reasons, but generally to go wakeboarding. So that's sort of the non, what would you call it, non-serious side of what we do. And I often think, about my last time here a couple of years ago, and I think Dean Corliss invited me back sort of give an update from the dark side of the world. And myself, I wouldn't say I'm particularly a green person. Like to be, I'd honestly say I'm probably not. I am extremely interested in green technologies, and so I got myself an electric car. And thanks to the last Green Boats forum here a couple of years ago, I met an interesting gentleman who covered his marina with solar panels and was talking about the value added to his marina, and promptly went home and bought 82 solar panels and took my house off the grid. And now my solar powers my car, and what I'm finding is that it's getting more and more interesting. And so in a couple of months, our entire office goes off the grid, and what we're discovering is all sorts of added value advantages. One is our customers find it interesting. They like coming to the office and sort of seeing the new technology that's emerging. They're interested in it, and they gravitate towards it. So one of the things I found interesting this morning was how all around 2008, 2009, 2010, lots of different groups and organizations all started thinking in the same way about the same time. And so we decided that in 2010, that in 10 years, we were going to take what was a very non-environmentally friendly business and turn it into sort of as much of a showcase as we possibly could on what was possible. About the same time this boat was launched, we had nothing to do with it. They went around the world on solar power, and we were quite interested because we looked at the boat, said it's not really a yacht. There's not much we can do with it in terms of accommodations or luxurious spaces. This is typically what we deal with. This is a toy garage inside of a 90-meter boat we're doing right now. And so the object is, how do we take this and how do we make this green? And to my way of thinking, if we can make something like this absolutely, a really low footprint on the earth, we can make anything possible. So the reality is my business is a for-profit business. If I can't sell it, I can't use it in my business. And what we found was with our customers, if we can't make it better and we can't make it demonstrate all the way across the board its added value to it, we're not going to sell it. And our customers, for the most part, care about, is it better? Is it quieter? Is it more interesting? On and on and on. So, purpose of me being here today, or what I'm hoping to accomplish today, is just give you a bit of an insight into some of the things we're working with. There's Joyce Clear in the crowd here is doing all sorts of really interesting things on other sides. I'm going to talk more from a technology side of what we're doing. So from the Planet Solar boat that you saw earlier, we sort of got interested, I guess probably 6 years ago now, in how do we sort of start integrating solar design into our boats. The real power that they produce compared to what we need on board a large yacht is pretty small, but it was an easy place to start because the technology was tangible. So this is a 200-foot boat. We have solar balconies that come out of the side. So that when the boat's at anchor, not only do we get more balcony space, but we also can start generating some power. Solar-powered helicopter pad. We took that. This is a yacht support vessel that we're currently doing. Its purpose is to provide sort of logistics and helicopters and all that kind of stuff without disturbing the owner in the next bay over. And you can carry extra toys and crew and naturalists and pilots and on and on and on. And so does this solve the problem? Is this a green solution? No, not at all. It's just start of the journey. On another 205-foot project we're doing, we have large retractable turbines, in the yacht business, we find a lot of our customers don't want to see all sorts of big complicated gear, so these fold up, roll right into the side of the mast on each side. We're now doing our third project right now with large retractable turbines, and the new one will have twin 20 kW turbines. I guess it was about 4 years ago we started working with electrochromic glass. This is different from the clear opaque LCD glass. This is completely dimmable. And well, what we're seeing is it's possible to get to about a 60% reduction in the heat load in the boat, which can bring our air conditioning loads down about 60%. So far, we've only proven about a 40% reduction, which is still pretty substantial. In the previous 200-foot boat, it costs about $400,000 a year to run the air conditioning on board. And so a 40% reduction is $160,000 a year. And you go 10 years, it's a pretty substantial reduction in the power need. We're now hooking it up so it's live to the movement of the sun. So as the sun moves around, tint on the boat is changing. And so wherever it's shady, there's less tint, you get better visibility. Where it's sunny, it gets darker. From our standpoint, we sell it to our customers because it's completely integrated in the glass, completely solid state. They don't have to buy blinds. They have complete privacy. They can dim it right down to about 95% dark or 5% light transmission, so you don't need blinds. Takes about 1 watt of power per panel, so 100 windows, like a 100-watt light bulb. And then we've actually, I guess we're doing our 4th or 5th boat now with the electrochromic glass. And this is a pilot house on a 180-footer, single piece of curved optically corrected glass on the wheelhouse. It is 62 millimeters thick, and so it's a bit of a greenhouse on a hot day. And it's completely electrochromic, and we have it set up so that you can change tint in bands depending on what you're trying to do. So if the sun's overhead, you can still see out the front, but have the top completely dark. And that we sort of took a cue from some of the building work that's being done with electrochromic glass. And we're finding that we can do all sorts of interesting artistic things with it as well. So in our minds, we don't use the electrochromic glass because it's green. We use it because it saves $160,000 on a 200-footer. We don't have to have any blinds, provides complete flexibility, and we can do all sorts of interesting things from an art standpoint. So that's what we sell it as. It also happens to be a green technology. This is a guest bedroom on board a 280-footer we're doing now. You know, we don't have any blinds. It's fantastic to be able to just look out the windows. But if you want privacy, we can do it in bands across the glass. So depending if you're getting changed, have the band at 5 feet above the floor. In this case, in this particular boat, it does bring down the HVAC loads by 40%. I'll go on to a couple more images of the same boat, but the interior accommodations of this boat are virtually, we don't have a grid on this boat except internal, but it's virtually an off-the-grid interior on this boat. So we went down a bit of a rabbit hole on some energy harvesting. This one was a real surprise to us, just simply wireless switches. We chased down the cost of all the pre-planning, the wireway and switch drawings, the integration into the interior and the wireway plans and the whole tree of thinking, and switching a 50-meter boat to wireless switching saves about $400,000 in planning costs. And so typically this is what they do. You know, they just basically, you hit a little switch, runs a little generator, sends a little wireless signal to the controller on the lights. From our standpoint, we sell it to our customers from a flexibility standpoint. You know, an owner doesn't want to be inside of a boat, or doesn't want to be, you know, figuring out where all his switches have to be, you know, 2 years in advance, like we need them to decide. This way, we can wait till the whole boat's done. There's no wiring, no boxes hidden in behind the walls. We can simply, when the boat's done, walk around with a box of switches and put them on the wall. So the owners love the experience, because if they decide they want to move it, they move it. And so for them, it's an added value. It also happens to be a very green technology. This one was kind of surprising. We started playing around with piezo switches, or piezo sensors for energy harvesting. We were just playing around with a flag. We can actually produce a usable amount of power to run little courtesy lights around the inside of the aft deck, just simply by the flag flying around. This one actually produces a surprising amount of power. So we use a lot of exterior awnings on board boats, and they're constantly flapping and moving. So we decided to turn them into little energy harvesting setups. You can see at the base there where there's sort of a little ring, that's all LED lighting, so that the awnings are self-powered. So at nighttime, you know, we pretty much always have wind on board the boats. The energy of the wind is just simply powering a lot of our exterior lighting now. This one we're probably about 6 months away from the actual real tests. On a 50-meter boat, we lined the entire engine room with energy harvesting panels. As best as we can calculate, we can get about 26 kilowatts of power simply by the noise bouncing around inside the engine room. From our standpoint, where we'd have typically a couple of 2600 kilowatt engines on either side, 26 kilowatts is not an awful lot. What it does for us is it's taking 26 kilowatts of sound energy from transferring into the owner's cabin. So now all of a sudden we can reduce the noise in the boat, make it quieter, and we happen to get some extra power off of it as well. Cost of doing so is very inexpensive. Typically in an engine room like this, we'd spend upwards of $2 million on sound dampening. This case here, I think we ended up with about $80,000 in materials. We're also doing, on the same boat, doing tests on energy harvesting off the bow thrusters and off the propellers. So we'll see how those turn out. Next Green Boats and Ports Conference, I can talk about those hopefully. So that led us into another direction, which is kind of interesting. So we're testing some materials right now on the piezo side. Is everyone familiar with the term piezoelectrics? No? Okay. Basically like a clicker in a barbecue, where you turn the clicker and it activates a little piezo ceramic disc, which then creates a burst of electricity, and use that burst of electricity for something. And so the same thing you see often in kids' running shoes, where they're running along and the lights are going on and off. So what we're doing right now is we're running piezo fabrics, piezo threads into fabrics for life jackets, so that simply the motion of the water creates electricity, which then runs the lights to power the person in the water, so you can send a signal, tell where they are, so light them up. And as the helicopter gets closer, it adds to the noise, which also activates so the life jacket gets brighter. And so, of course, we take it back to yachts. And and so this is a 73 meters, so that's whatever, 230 odd feet yacht. Dance floor in the back, completely powered by people hopping around on the dance floor. This is a technology. Is everyone familiar with phase-changing materials? Anyone not know it? Okay. So phase-changing materials, ice is a great example of a phase-changing material. You might have seen those little packs you stick in a pot of boiling water, and they store heat, and some people use them when they go skiing and things like that. So basically, it has, when heat is stored, when it's in its liquid state, and heat is released, the heat is absorbed when it's in liquid, and then it's released as it cools down. And so what it does is it allows you to moderate the temperature of a space. And it's it's becoming quickly quite common in building business. We sort of became aware of it a couple of years ago, but didn't really pay a lot of attention to it. And until this came along. This is a phase-changing dining table. And so it has aluminum base. Inside the aluminum base is little phase-changing balls. And what it does is help stabilize the temperature of the room it's sitting in. Room gets too warm, the balls absorb the heat. Room gets too cold, discharges the heat. Now, what is really interesting, so when we saw this, we went, oh, this is something we can take and use in a yacht. Now, how do we start using it? So this is a 270-foot boat that is under construction now. In this particular one, we started with a phase-changing dining table to help stabilize the room. And then we've added phase-changing frames to the pictures in behind. The whole entire ceiling is lined with phase-changing materials. And so basically, we can control the temperature of this room within 4 degrees with no air conditioning. And so it's completely static. And if we want to control that other 4 degrees, the energy it takes to do it is next to nothing. And what we have in the sort of boxes on the top left there is a large amount of phase-changing materials, which, interestingly enough, also happen to be completely biodegradable and environmentally friendly. So the material is not some toxic chemical. And then we have in the middle, we have slats, which I can probably see in the next picture better, that actually have a little bit less because we didn't want so much cold air coming down from over the dining table itself. So this helps keep the entire temperature, almost entirely within control. We can control a 30-degree temperature swing with on the outside with 4 degrees inside, and no power. So coming on that, we sell that to our clients as it's quiet. They don't care about saving some power that way. This main salon on board the boat, again, the entire ceiling's done the same way. And pictures, again, are all part of the equation. And so what we're starting to do is we're starting to integrate all this kind of technology into the boats in a useful way. And we're able to do it in a way that, whether you like the interior design or not, it's personal taste. But for zero power. So this is virtually an entirely off-the-grid interior. You can see the slats better. This is a Tai Chi room on board the boat with 14-foot ceilings, so they can swing their swords around and not slice up the headliner. And so in our project, we've also started to learn that it's not just the materials we choose or the technology pieces. So often it's how we build it. And so we're starting to take into the equation, how do we build the boats faster? If it spends less time in a shipyard, takes less power to run it, we can build boats faster in a smaller shipyard footprint. We started looking at CNC. We've been using CNC for years now, but now we're looking at it as a way of actually reducing wastage. So typical interior, we're taking right down to CNC files for everything. We can now get our wastage down to within less than 2% on the interiors, and that's down from 30% probably 15 years ago. This is interior on a 130-foot boat. We released the cut files. This is in Asia. We released the cut files. The builder came back, said the actual plywood, we had it based on 12 millimeter plywood. They actually came back and said theirs is actually 12.1 millimeters. We adjusted the entire file set parametrically. It was cut with a 15-year-old machine in the middle of a field in Asia. And 11 days later, I took a picture of this. And so the build times, so it looks like a big pile of wood, but integrated in it is all the fire sprinkler heads, the speaker heads, pile of thinking that would normally take months to build. So we look at that and go, almost no wastage, extremely short build times, can be a green technology. This is one that we're really looking at closely from as a green technology. We're looking seriously at printing an entire ship. And it sounds insane. Right now it can't be done. But we're going, technology's already here. It's really a matter of the scale of the machine. It's not a technology change. We can print just about every kind of material, and we are printing just about every kind of material. Wastage is near zero, and build times are extremely short. So we started playing around with, what does that actually look like and where do the problems come up? And so this is a 45-meter boat, so 147 feet. And we're using this as a bit of a test bed for what are the pieces, what are the materials, what are the cartridges, what are the challenges, what are the things that, what things can't we print? And right now, virtually every material that we want to can be printed up at a rate of about 6 millimeters an hour, which means that we can print a 147-foot boat, in theory, all the way to the top of the mast in less than 90 days. And so we said, take it to 150. It's still an extraordinarily short build. They're already 3D printing cars. So we're going, it's just the scale of the machine. Airbus is already looking at building a 3D printed plane by 2050. And we're starting to look at, how would we do structures differently? So we can look at, extremely lightweight constructions that are extremely strong. And, here we see sort of consistent honeycomb construction. We're looking at it and saying, well, we don't actually have to have consistency. We can change the structure to suit the loadings anywhere inside the structure. And so, this is the inside of the Airbus sort of concept plane. And, it's got all sorts of interesting technologies and things emerging. We started engineering about 3 months ago a first sort of large-scale printed section of a ship. And next month we're actually going to a printer in Germany to print a section that's about 5 feet by 5 feet. And it's really interesting, all the different things that come out of it, because we can completely revamp how you design ships to save an extraordinary amount of material, make them a lot lighter, make them a lot more efficient. On the green side, like typically on a yacht, we sort of make them look like automobiles on the outside with perfectly mirror-perfect paint jobs and things. With a 3D printed boat, we don't need all that toxic fairing that goes on these boats to paint them. We don't need to paint on non-skids because we can print it right onto the decks. We don't need to, there's just so many different things that we can do. In theory, we can print the wiring straight into the boat, and so we only print it where we need it. This is another one that sort of we spun off a little bit off of our main business. We got asked by the National Research Council in Canada to, work with them on what it takes to actually make transoceanic electric boats. And so we're part of a team that's working on a very large-scale project. This is, large tidal turbines. And so this is what we're looking at right now, which is a large turbine, wind turbine on top, large solar field, couple of boats on the tied up to the docks, fueling stations around the perimeter. And in this particular case, we're looking at storing the energy in a series of containers underneath the solar field. And the fastest way of charging a boat at sea is to swap out containers very much like a large cordless drill. And so work on this is well underway now. And back to the goal of sort of making change by 2020, we could see the first small-scale test of this by 2020. So it's getting a little closer. My wife sent me this morning, and I thought it somehow seemed an appropriate way to end the conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. The only word that comes to mind is innovative. Really highlights things. I'm sure there's going to be some questions at the end of the afternoon. Okay, we have some time for some questions.
All right, should I leave the microphone on?
I'll just talk about it. Here, let's use this one. All right.
Me?
I think so.
Hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hi, it's Carlene Namepa. Thank you so much for this presentation. Talk about a futuristic view of yachting. I guess what surprised me was your statement that your customers don't necessarily are interested in it from an environmental standpoint, but if it's better and it's cheaper, then they're interested. And many of these are captains of industry who are practicing corporate social responsibility in their day-to-day lives. Is there a way to convince them that this is a good investment for them on multiple layers, but is consistent with their onshore practices?
I think that my comment that they're not interested is probably not fair. What we're seeing is there's definitely a change in the demand for it, but at the end of the day, glass as being one thing, for example. That boat that has the large glass panels has roughly $10 million US worth of glass on board. And so somebody who's pulling $10 million out of their pocket to buy glass gets very concerned about warranty. And the people making the glass don't want you attaching all sorts of exotic new technologies to their glass that they are going to have to warranty. So what we found is that if you can prove that something is better, then it's a win-win. And you appease their, in our case, our customers, personal desire to be responsible, and you combine it to their sort of inner desire to buy something that's better, more unique, or whatever. So coming back on glass for a second, what we're finding with the electrochromic glass is we can do all sorts of interesting design things that you can't do with ordinary glass. With phase-changing materials, customers like it because it's extremely quiet. And a boat we just launched in New Zealand has some of the lowest sound decibel requirements of any vessel on Earth right now, actually. And it's in the low 30 decibels with everything running full tilt. So the expense to get to those extremely low sound levels is enormous. And so those technologies, when we combine like phase-changing materials and its real vehicle to seeing it happen, is the fact that it's so much quieter. Then we sort of put traction to our bigger goal, which is how do we make it more sustainable.
I was wondering how you calibrate the phase-changing materials for temperature and so forth, and also the.
When you say calibrate, what do you mean? Oh, you mean like how do we? Yes. Well, what we do, first of all, the first few tests we've done with it, actual live, have been on boats that we've had built other versions before. So first of all, not answering your question, but first of all, we have data on what a boat without the phase-changing material does, and when we put the phase-changing material in, what is the result? It's sort of a passive approach to it. So in the most recent boat, we still have a heating and cooling system, but it's just an awful lot smaller than what we would have had without it. Now you can buy the materials so it's set to be neutral at different temperatures. So if you buy one that's set for 72 degrees, anything above 72 degrees, it's storing the heat. Anything below 72 degrees, it's discharging the heat. You can also buy ones that are set for 50 degrees or 90 degrees or whatever. And typically, in the last boat we did, we used a material that is about 98 BTUs per square foot. So 1,000 square feet of it gives you 98,000 BTUs of heating and storage capacity. Good. Thank you.